You set the alarm for 5 a.m. You meant it this time. You really did. And for 3 days, maybe 4, you actually got up. You drank the water. You did the thing. And then one morning, maybe it was raining, maybe you were tired, maybe nothing even happened. You just didn't. And within a week, it was like those 4 days never existed. So you told yourself you'd start again on Monday. And here's the thing that nobody talks about. That pattern, the surge, the collapse, the reset. That's not laziness. That's not weakness. That might actually be your brain doing exactly what it was designed to do. And understanding why changes everything. Let's start here. You are not broken. I know that sounds like something people say, but stay with me for a second because there's a real reason you keep cycling through this. There's a real reason the motivation hits hard and then evaporates. There's a real reason 21 days feels like climbing a mountain in sandals while someone keeps moving the summit. Your brain isn't failing you, it's protecting you. It always is. Even when that protection looks from the outside and from the inside like giving up. The first thing to understand is what happens in the beginning. Day 1 feels electric. You feel different already, even though nothing has changed yet. That feeling is real. Your brain releases dopamine not when you achieve something, but when you anticipate it. The plan, the idea, the vision of who you're becoming. That's the reward. The actual work that follows? That's where the chemistry gets complicated. Psychologists call this the intention-action gap. You can want something completely and genuinely and still find yourself unable to move toward it consistently. Not because the want isn't real, but because desire and behavior are processed in different parts of the brain, and those parts don't always agree. Think about every time you've watched someone you admire talk about their routine, the cold showers, the journaling, the early mornings, and felt that fire in your chest. That fire was real. What happened afterward wasn't betrayal, it was biology. The brain that wanted it and the brain that has to do it every single day are, in a very real sense, different systems in conversation with each other, and one of them is obsessed with comfort. Here's where it gets interesting. The nervous system doesn't distinguish between a challenge that's good for you and a threat. To the part of your brain responsible for keeping you alive, discomfort is information. It says this is hard, this is different, this is not what we know, and what we don't know can be dangerous, so it pulls you back. This isn't weakness. This is a nervous system doing its job too well. The people who seem to have discipline aren't people whose brains don't resist. They're people who have, usually through repetition, sometimes through pain, sometimes through necessity, taught their nervous system that the discomfort is survivable, that the unfamiliar can become familiar, that on the other side of hard there's still safety. You haven't failed the challenge. You may have simply never been shown how to make the uncomfortable feel safe enough to stay in. There's another layer here, and it goes deeper. A lot of people who struggle with consistency aren't struggling because they don't care. They're struggling because they care too much. The stakes feel enormous. If you try fully, if you give this everything, and it still doesn't work, what does that say about you? Psychologists call this self-handicapping. It's a way the mind protects identity. If you never fully commit, you never fully fail. The half attempt becomes a cushion. I didn't really try is easier to live with than I tried and it wasn't enough. So the drop-off on day 5 isn't laziness. It might be armor. It might be a self built around the idea that potential is safer than performance. Because potential is forever and performance has a verdict. You weren't quitting. You were protecting something fragile and important. The belief that you still could. But here's the part nobody tells you. The 21-day framework itself might be part of the problem. The idea that habits form in exactly 21 days is one of the most persistent myths in popular psychology. The real research suggests it's closer to 66 days on average, and for complex behaviors, much longer. Which means the moment you stumble on day 8 and feel like you've broken the streak and ruined everything, that feeling of failure is based on a deadline your brain invented. You didn't fall behind. You were never on a countdown to begin with. What actually builds consistency isn't a perfect 21-day run. It's returning. It's the number of times you came back after you stopped. Every single return is a vote for who you're becoming. Not a grand gesture, just you came back. There's also something worth knowing about identity. The version of you that started the challenge and the version that quit aren't different people with different levels of willpower. They're the same person at different moments in the nervous system cycle. When you're rested, hopeful, and regulated, the challenge feels possible. When you're depleted, overwhelmed, or just slightly off, it doesn't. And you've probably noticed that the things you do maintain consistently, even without trying, are things that feel like you. The playlist you keep returning to, the way you always make your coffee, the route you walk without deciding to. Those aren't discipline, those are identity. They're woven in. The question isn't how to force new habits through willpower. It's how to let a new behavior become part of what feels like you. That takes longer than 21 days. It takes repetition without punishment. It takes returning without shame. Think of a behavior you're trying to build, like a room you're not used to sleeping in yet. The first few nights feel wrong. The light comes in differently. The sounds are unfamiliar. Your body doesn't relax the same way. But you don't conclude the room is broken. You understand it just takes time to feel like yours. That's what your brain is doing with every new habit. It's waiting for the room to feel like home. And the more you return to it, even imperfectly, even briefly, the more it starts to belong to you. Willpower was never the thing. Familiarity is the thing. So here's where we land. You're not someone who can't change. You're someone whose brain learned, very early and very thoroughly, to protect you from discomfort, to pull you back to what's known, to question anything that feels too different, too hard, too uncertain. That's not a flaw in your character. That's a nervous system that kept you safe for a long time. The 21-day challenge, the Monday resets, the fresh starts that last 4 days. None of that is evidence that you're weak. It's evidence that you keep trying in the face of a brain that finds change genuinely difficult. That's not weakness. That's one of the most quietly courageous things a person can do. You don't need to fix yourself. You never did. You just needed someone to explain what was actually happening inside you, so you could stop fighting yourself and start understanding yourself instead. And understanding is always where it starts.